Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm super excited today to be talking to two students from Wagner. So if you're interested in auditioning for musical theater, then you are in the right place. And without further ado, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I can start. Hi, I'm Andrew Kolar. I am currently a junior musical theater major here at Wagner. We call it theater performance. Um, uh, yeah,
And I am Ian. I am also a junior theater performance major.
Amazing. So can you guys clarify exactly what, because now I'm interviewing people from so many different types of programs. So can you clarify exactly what your major is and what degree you guys get?
Yeah, so this is a BA in theater performance, but it's very much treated like a BFA in our conservatory classes. But then we just also have that liberal arts background. So we have kind of that 50-50 split, but we still very much get that conservatory training from our professors.
yeah, I would say it's probably one of the most, um, what's the word for it? Intense BA programs out of all of them in terms of our class curriculum and the amount of theater performances we're taking. It's pretty comparable, I'd say, to like a BFA in conservatory, but it is a BA, yeah.
Awesome. And can you explain to people watching what your guys' application and audition process is?
Yeah, so application was just Common App for me. And then you get a letter, I think like somewhere December, January, letting you know whether or not you got into the college first. You have to be academically accepted. And there's no pre-screen or anything. And in non-COVID time when we auditioned, we came to campus, I think end of February, beginning of March, something like that. And it was kind of an all-day thing. There's two different groups that go. So there's like a morning group and an afternoon group. And there's a vocal room, monologue room, and dance room. Um, yeah, it's super chill though. All of the students kind of help to run the audition day, and it's just like a super chill atmosphere.
Yeah, adding on to that, I think I'd say that well, with the application process, it's kind of like you have to apply kind of early action. I think it's normally December 1st is the date you have to apply to the school. There's a specific date just for theater performance majors that where you have to turn your application by. Um, but in terms of audition day itself, it's a super cool process, really kind of collaborative. We're one of the schools where you do your monologue in front of everybody in your audition group. So that's something just to be prepared for if you're auditioning in person. But no, it's a super fun day, and us as students, our job is to make it as like fun and easy for you as possible. So we have a ton of fun doing it, and it's kind of a day for you just to get to know us as well as for everyone to get to know you.
And the cool thing too is like if you're there at audition day, even if you don't get accepted for theater performance, you're still accepted to the school, so you can come here for theater studies, and there's still a whole bunch of opportunities to perform and to grow as an artist there as well.
Amazing. How many do you guys tend to take per class?
I think right now we have about 30 in our class.
Yeah. I think they normally take around 30, and normally people, like a couple people drop and a couple people transfer. And now it's a weird COVID year. I did check right before this because I was interested, and there's 29 currently because we had some people like drop out and then some like take a gap year and get added to our class. So in our junior class, there's 29. And I think there's a little bit less in the classes below us, but it's normally right around that number.
Awesome. And you mentioned before how you guys, even though it's a BA, you guys still have a pretty intense curriculum. So can you talk about that split in terms of how many performance-based classes you have compared to your like core academic classes since you are at a liberal arts college?
Yeah, so we have a very set amount of classes that we have to take in kind of like our Wagner plan is what they call it. Um, so we take 36 classes by the time we graduate, 9 each year. And to major in theater performance, you're required to take 13, but then you can also take an additional 5 theater kind of like extracurriculars, if you will. And then you have the 18 gen ed. So it's a half and half split.
And the way we also do things a bit differently in terms of the dance classes in our programs are not part of those 36 credits. And so you take dance classes not for credit. And so you might, in a normal semester, you take, or a normal year, you take like 9 classes throughout the entire year. But adding dance classes onto that, which are like our normal type class, you might be taking 12, 13, 14 classes. But basically, in terms of like our core curriculum, we have the normal like acting 1 through 5, covering things like Shakespeare, monologue, scene study. And then we have, those are like kind of the straight acting classes. And then there's the musical theater kind of part of that. So we have musical theater performance 1, 2. We have like rock the audition class, which is like pop rock, things like that as well. And then like other specialty classes you can take. So the core stuff is kind of like the acting, the musical theater performance, the dance, musical theater dance, things like that. And then once you get to your like junior and senior year, you have a lot of more flexibility with electives in terms of like things like acting for the camera, or if you want to do more film stuff or things like that. So the first couple of years is pretty set up for you in terms of what you're going to take. And so freshman year, it's not a whole lot your first semester. But after that, it's you probably taking like 2 to 3 core theater classes, and then another 1 to 2 elective classes. But at the time you're a junior and senior, it's mostly theater classes, especially if you had AP credits or stuff coming in.
It's also super cool because we have a really amazing design tech and management program here as well, and arts administration. So in those electives, like we can take stage management or directing, or we can take courses in like business, like arts, business stuff. So it's really cool that we can like explore that area of the theater as well.
Yeah, that is awesome, because it's always interesting as I talk to different programs. A lot of programs now, it's becoming more popular where it's mandatory to be like tech on a show, or, you know, like tech and dance major show. And I think that's so important, even if you have no interest in like going into lighting, just to understand it and like know what the crew around you in a show is doing. It's such an important skill to have.
Yeah, we also do have 4 mandatory tech assignments, and we can do those anytime throughout our 4 years.
Are you guys able to minor, or I know a lot of people sometimes are interested in possibly like double majoring. Is that an option for you?
Yeah, you can definitely double major and minor depending on what you want to do. It can be tricky because the theater department performance track is a lot, but you are definitely able to. I think Ian, you have a minor, right?
Yeah, I'm minoring in political science right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm not technically minoring in anything, but I have a big interest in arts administration, and so I'm kind of like creating my own minor in terms of taking like marketing, business, like stuff like that for arts administration. And so there's kind of that path you can take too.
That's so cool. And because you mentioned, it sounds like once you get further along, like junior year, you'd have more ability to kind of make your own schedule and make the major what you want out of it, which is really cool.
Yes.
Can you guys speak about your performance opportunities? Everything from what the school puts on to any like club shows and more student organized things?
We have so many productions happening all the time because we have like 8, I think, department productions each year, 4 each semester, 2 on the main stage and 2 in our black box, like studio theater. But then we have so much student run theater. We have 2 companies that do, I think, 4 shows a year, like in conjunction with the schedule with the department. And they've been doing a lot of original work lately. They also do a lot of like regular published shows, but they've been really getting into, especially during COVID, doing original shows, which is super cool. And we have some new clubs coming up. I think there's one called Work in Progress that's coming up right now. Yeah, my roommate is part of that.
Awesome.
It's a lot of like, no matter what stage of the process like your work is in, kind of just like getting it in front of an audience. And I think we have a Shakespeare club as well. So they do like outdoor, he's part of that one as well. They do like outdoor, like we have our oval in front of our main hall. So they do a lot of stuff like out there when the weather is nice and like early fall and then like late right before summer.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunities, as Ian mentioned, and it's also very like underclassmen friendly in that way. It's like really easy to get involved and to be cast and things like that in those shows too, which is super nice.
Can you guys talk about your campus a little bit, where you're located? And since people, it's getting harder to go visit campuses, so just what's the layout, what's the vibe, that type of thing?
Yeah, so well, firstly, we're on Staten Island in New York City. So for those of you who don't know, Staten Island's kind of like the forgotten borough because it's not, you think of New York, you think of Manhattan, but we're kind of just a ferry ride away. And so it's a much more like residential part of the city. And so our campus looks a lot like what you would think like a generic college campus would be, with like the giant oval and like quads and things like that. Lots of grass, which is, hard to come by in the city. So that's nice. But it's basically on this beautiful hill on Staten Island. And because we're on a hill, we have a giant view of the city. And so like one of our dorms is called Harbor View because it just looks out over the city skyline. It's really pretty. It's a very small campus. I'd say probably you could get anywhere on it within 10 minutes. So it's all like walkable, stuff like that. It's very, very hilly. We're on a hill. I will tell you that your first weeks here, your calves will get the workout. But in terms of like the vibe, it's very small. We only have, I think it's like around 2,000 undergraduate students. And so it's a very small campus vibe in that feel in terms of, everyone, and or at least recognize people. And in terms of like the makeup of our school and campus, we have a decent sized theater program, but then we also have Division I sports. And so we're kind of mixed in with like D1 football players and like all the sports. There's like 36 sports. And then there's also a big like nursing program and PA program. And so it's a really cool mix of people. But it's also a kind of a small, very small field.
Yeah, and even though we're on Staten Island, we're super close to Manhattan. So we have a shuttle that runs to the ferry, and then we can take the ferry into Manhattan, and that's all free. And then just take your Metro card, swipe onto the subway, and you can go anywhere you want.
And I can speak because I'm in Manhattan right now, and I know being a theater major here is so exciting, obviously, because it's not just Broadway, but there's a million off Broadway and off Broadway shows that people don't even realize happening here all the time. So, can you guys talk about what your school does? Because I always say I love being here because it's so easy to make connections and kind of slowly break into the industry while you're still at school. So, how does Wagner help you guys make those connections, whether it be doing summer stock while you're still at school or showcasing your senior year? How do you start tapping in to the industry while you're at school?
I like to say that part of the cool thing is like our faculty, because we're in New York City, they still kind of are the industry. So like our professors are like working this full-time professing job and then stage managing a Broadway show at night or music directing their show at night or, things like that. And so I think sometimes there's like a disconnect between acting teachers and the industry today and those connections and things like that. And I think being in New York and having professors who basically all still work in the industry is super nice. And the connections that they bring in, especially in senior year for like our final senior showcase classes and things like that. They have a lot of guest people. And so I've always felt very connected, and they use their connections, the department does, to get us like tickets to see shows, things like that, those type of connections. And then I think Ian could talk a bit more about like workshops and things like that.
Yeah, one of our professors that he's one of the stage managers for Come From Away, he actually takes his stage management students to like shadow him. So being a theater performance major, we can take stage management and then we can go in and shadow him, and it's just super cool. And one of our other professors, Wendy Cabot, is the music director for Come From Away. So she's about to like go into quarantine with them right now before like they like film it, whatever. But yeah, and then I'm part of the theater advisory board on campus. So we kind of like act as a liaison between the students and the faculty, but we also plan a whole bunch of like workshops. So we are doing a lot of stuff online right now. So we're kind of able to get a more diverse group of people. So We're working on one right now. I don't think I should say who it is because it's not like finalized yet, but we did one in December with Casey Levy. We've done them in the
And to
past.
represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done some in the past with Ben Finkhauser, and then just other ones for like acting for the camera, for some more arts management stuff. We have a lot of our arts administration students are like required to do internships, and we have a lot of them working with like Ju Jampson, which is like one of the biggest, like they kind of like run the theaters themselves. So yeah, we have a whole bunch of just different avenues that people can kind of get into the business from.
That's incredible. Wow. I'm really blown away. You guys have a really amazing setup there. And like I said, like those connections really are everything at the end of the day. And it's not just the connections, but I can't imagine just the experience of being backstage and shadowing a stage manager of a Broadway show. Like how, even like I said, even if you never want to stage manage a day in your life, as a performer, you're still going to take so much away from that. That's unreal. Can you guys, each of you, talk about what made you choose your school over maybe other programs, or what makes it different from others?
Yeah, so I kind of knew going in that I didn't want a BFA, because I knew some other people that had done BFAs, and I just knew that like for me, I wanted still that academic, because I think what makes performers so interesting and so unique is kind of like being well-rounded and just like having a more diverse knowledge of how the world works and different things. So I kind of like, I didn't even apply to any BFAs when I initially was looking. And I actually, during my application season, was thinking of also going for theater ed. And I was between Wagner and somewhere else for theater ed. I don't even remember where it was, but just having the ability to make a diverse kind of schedule, kind of just like make it what I want. And I could do some education classes if I wanted while I was here, but not being like pinned down to that, and kind of just like having the freedom to make my time here what it is, was just super cool and just super fascinating for me.
Yeah, and I'm very similar to Ian in terms of I wanted a BA because, like I said before, I was very interested in like arts administration and other things like that. And Wagner has an incredible kind of all-around program for all tons of different elements. And so after I did my research and saw it, I was like, this is perfect on paper. I hope when I come here, it's like as awesome. And then it was, and I kind of like fell in love. I visited like 3 times, I think, just because I loved it and I wanted to come back like before audition day. But yeah, for me, it was just a perfect curriculum and location. I think being in New York, I had a lot of people tell me like, don't go to New York for college. Like you're going to spend the rest of your life there if you're an actor. And I personally don't think that was the right choice for me or I think it was the right choice for me to come to New York, because I couldn't imagine going to school in any other place for theater.
It's also super cool in non-COVID times when we come on audition day. It's always scheduled during one of our main stage performances. So they give us free tickets to come see one of their shows. So our year, it was Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson that we saw. And I was just like absolutely blown away by like the production value. So that also like definitely sold me on coming here.
It's so interesting because those are 2 pieces of advice or kind of warning. Someone had told me the same thing. They were like, don't go to school in New York. And I actually took off New York schools because of that. And then it's so funny that I ended up going to school in Manhattan. But I agree. I mean, I think that might work for some people going far away, and as a performer, it's not like you won't do tours or, like cruise ships is a huge dream of mine. Like you'll still leave New York or perform regionally around the country. It's not like you're stuck here forever. And it's such an exciting place to study. I think we've had the same thing where I've gotten tickets before. And if you're sitting in class frustrated and then you go and see a show that night, I've had so many times where then I'm just like rejuvenated. And it's like, yeah, that's why I do this. And it just like kind of gives you a new burst of energy. And then also seeing shows, my voice teacher was like, if you get a chance at any college you audition, see a show. And I would definitely recommend that to people once it's non-COVID times and theater opens back up, because I think it just gives you another way to look into the school, or just like a different insight that you might not get on a tour, seeing the actual productions that they're putting up. Even I think when I auditioned at Point Park, there wasn't any main stage, but I went and saw like a dance concert that was going on. And I wasn't going to be a dance major, but it was still really fun just to be in their theater for a night and see them put up work.
Yeah.
So do you guys have, those are all my questions that I wanted to ask, but I always like to end on any pieces, any last things you want to say, or a piece of advice to give people auditioning and going through this process.
I would say be human. I think that's a big thing that we focus on here at Wagner, and just in general, I think is good advice, where if you're trying to like fit into a cookie cutter image with like your jewel tone dress and, you know, like the picture perfect audition thing, it's not always who you are. And I think don't lose sight of who you are in your process when you're looking at other people and comparing yourself. Just don't do it. Just be yourself and be human.
Yeah, and when you're choosing your college, one college that like looks perfect and might be right for one person might not be right for you. So there's all these like rankings of what's the best college for theater, but it's really what's the best college for you. And I think that's just super important. Just, I guess, not comparing yourself to other people and where they're going, but just kind of like finding your adventure and what feels like home to you and what's going to get you the farthest in your little journey.
That's amazing. Those are two great pieces of advice. Thank you so much for joining me today and answering all these questions. And to everyone watching, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this useful. I'm super excited to finally be interviewing about a BA program, because in my last like 3 videos, everyone was commenting like, please talk about BA programs. We want to hear about them. So I'm super excited to have done this. And if anyone watching has more questions or want to learn more, please comment. I can get you in touch with Andrew and Ian at any point, or I can reach out to them and get your questions answered. So yeah, leave comments, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Thank you guys.